For this week's podcast, I want to reflect back on just coming out of the Easter holiday and thinking about what we do at Easter and where we focus. And I'm I almost want to get us to think about what it is we think about Easter, and perhaps we're focused on the wrong thing. You go to church on Easter Sunday and it's all about the resurrection. And yes, that is the foundation for uh, our faith, but is that the foundation for our life and our living? Uh, Probably not. When we're looking at Easter, we all know the right things to say. In fact, there are lots of people that know all the right things to say, but are they doing what they need to be doing? There are a lot of people currently that claim to be Christian that are being fooled by others who claim to be Christian. And these people that are going around fooling people, especially politicians, they know it. They have to be behind closed doors laughing at fooling all of these people who claim to be Christians. So you can know all the right things. You can have all the right theology. You can know everything about the birth of Jesus, the crucifixion of Jesus, and the resurrection. You can know all those things and still be missing. When we are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, which gives us the power over death, it should foster our faith to the point that we understand doing the right thing no matter what is what's important. Because even though Jesus was murdered by the religious institution of his time for doing the right thing, he still did the right thing. Doing the right thing is important. So when we're asking, is Jesus alive? The real question is Jesus alive in me? That's the only question I should ask. Is Jesus alive in me? Am I living my life doing the things that I know Jesus taught and modeled? And you should be asking you that question. Is Jesus alive in you? We each have to ask that question of ourselves. However, living in the political world we're living in, we kind of need to ask that question of the people that are asking for our vote, and then they get elected, and the things they do. Is Jesus alive in them? Well, how would you know that? We can't just take their word for it, because they're telling us they are, but by their actions and the things they do, they are not doing. They are not doing what they are doing. They are not treating people following the life and lessons of Jesus. And if they are not, there is no way they can be what they profess to be, that being Christian. It's very obvious to me that the politicians that are attempting to lead our country right at this moment are doing things that are not in alignment with the life and lessons of Jesus. And it is so blatant and to the point, I don't understand how anyone who claims to be a Christian can support them at all. The scripture that I want to focus on for this podcast comes from 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 3. If I speak in the tongues of humans and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. So if I'm a politician and I'm saying all the right things to get the Christians to vote for me, but I don't have love for my neighbors and for my enemies and for all those around me, I'm just noise. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. So even having all of the perfect theology and knowing just the right thing to say, if you don't have love, you have nothing. If you don't have love, you have nothing. So, in everything I do, if I don't have love, I have nothing. In everything you do, if you have not love, you have nothing. If in what politicians are doing, they are not showing love for others, they are nothing. They have nothing to offer. Another way of looking at 1 Corinthians 13 is Jesus alive inside the people that say they are following Jesus? It's very simple. I need to evaluate everything that I do by that question. Is Jesus alive in me? How is Jesus alive in me? By me living and following the life and lessons of Jesus. In everything that I do, I should be doing things as Jesus would do if he were here in my spot. And you need to do the same thing. And we need to hold our leaders to that same thing if they claim to be Christians. If they don't claim to be Christians, well, we really can't hold them to uh, those statements in regard to living their life according to. If they don't claim that, um, based on how some of the politicians live, I don't see that they claim that. Uh, some of them have even been interviewed where they've been asked questions. Have they ever asked for forgiveness when they're talking with God or praying? And they said, I don't think I ever did that. But this is critically important to the moment in which we live right now. What would Jesus do? If your politicians and leaders are doing things that are exact opposite of what Jesus taught and modeled, then there's no way they can be followers of Jesus. There's just no way. And when you see that and you still say, oh, President Trump is a Christian man and God sent him, or the Speaker of the House is a Christian man and God sent them, that's a pile of horse manure. A horse could walk into my house and take a dump right on my floor and it would have just as much value. There's no way. There's no way you could believe that. There's no way you could believe that. We do have laws in our land that are expected to be followed. And when the leaders don't follow them, they get convicted and they work the system and they don't receive the proper justice for what they've done. Something's wrong with that. But that's not even the most serious thing. When we are looking at people doing wrong and then not having any punishments for it, that might make us upset, especially with the current president, who was the former president, and all of the crimes that he's committed, and not having any consequences for that. That's an issue for me. But that's not a serious issue when it comes to people receiving consequences for crimes that it's not been proven or found that they've actually committed because of their language or the color of their skin. That's a problem. What would Jesus do? Would Jesus gather up a bunch of brown-skinned men and put them on a plane and ship them to a third country, a total different country that's not even associated with them or us, and put them in a prison that's basically a death camp? Would Jesus do that? No. Would Jesus collect men and then violate the laws of the land? We have this innocent until proven guilty. So if you're going to receive punishment or a sentence, or actions are done because supposedly you did something, each person is innocent until they're proven guilty. Skipping that and just saying all these people are guilty, poof, they're off. And even when the court system says, no, you can't do that, and you do it anyway, you can't. And then when we know people are not guilty and they're already there, and even the government admits, oh, that was a mistake, this shouldn't have gone, we're not bringing them back. They're just a brown man, we don't care. Or another case that we don't hear about as much. Oh, they're just a gay brown man. We're not even going to talk about that. And even the liberal media don't talk about that because it's just a gay man. Who cares? Not right, people. So the question, is Jesus alive? That's not a question about the resurrection. That is a question that each one of us has to ask of ourselves, and we have a responsibility to ask that of our politicians if they claim to be living their life as a Christian, which means they're following the life and lessons of Jesus. By their policies and their actions, they reject the life and lessons of Jesus. How can you claim to be a Christian when you continually reject the life and lessons of Jesus? Is Jesus alive today in the political leadership of our country and the things that they've been doing in the last 30 days? Absolutely not. Jesus is dead in American politics at this moment. Politicians that say they're afraid to stand up to the president who's doing wrong things, and they know he's doing wrong things, that shows us that in those people's lives, Jesus is dead. Jesus is not alive. Jesus modeled doing the right thing no matter what, even if they murder you for it. There is no Jesus in the White House right now. There is no Jesus in the House of Representatives. Jesus is not the predominant force in the Senate, if at all. I don't know. I could go through the 435 people and the 100 senators, and I could do some research and say, well, is Jesus alive in them and what they do? there probably are some. I mean, um, um, I feel like there'd be no hope if I thought that there were actually zero people that had Jesus alive. For the most part, Jesus is dead in Washington, D.C. Things have to change. Wake up. Don't be asleep. Be awake. We must hold politicians accountable for the wrong that they do, the mistreatment that they do, especially when they're claiming to be evangelical Christians and they are rejecting the life and lessons of Jesus in their actions. No matter if they have all the words to say, if they don't have love and they don't have honor and they can't be trusted to care for people, innocent till proven guilty, that's something Jesus would have supported. Diversity, equity, inclusion, those are things that Jesus supported and modeled. Jesus is not supportive of taking a bunch of people, brown men, shaving their heads, humiliating them, putting them on a plane, and piling them up on metal shelving until they die. Turning our back on that is not acceptable, especially when the American government is in the wrong and did wrong things. Is Jesus alive? In this situation, Jesus is dead. The politicians in America killed Jesus. Jesus is not alive in Washington, D.C. Jesus is not alive in a lot of churches. A lot of churches that have probably their biggest attendance today on Easter Sunday. I'm recording this on Easter Sunday. This podcast comes out tomorrow. Their biggest attendance, Easter Sunday. And they're celebrating the risen Lord because it's important to their faith and their foundation. And completely missing the point that if Jesus is alive, Jesus is risen. He's risen indeed. How many people chanted that at church this morning? He's risen. He's risen indeed. He's risen. He's risen indeed. Is Jesus alive? Is Jesus alive in you? Is Jesus alive in me? Is Jesus alive in my politicians that are saying they are following the life and lessons of Jesus and in what they do? Cannot let them get away with that. Cannot let them get away with that. The White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate killed Jesus. He's not there. Kick that Jesus on out of here. We are certainly not going to follow the life and lessons of Jesus. Jesus is too liberal. Okay, that's what I have to say here. Is Jesus alive? Well, the right question to ask is Jesus alive in you? And I'm asking myself, is Jesus alive in me? And in my political world, in my political environment, is Jesus alive or is Jesus dead in my political leaders? It's abundantly clear that Jesus is dead in the modern Republican Party. Clear. A party that embraces racism, prejudice, and mistreatment and forgoes the legal procedures and the laws for rooting out people that are done wrong. You can't bypass those. That's the foundation of who we are. Thank you for watching. If you've connected with this podcast, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.